Hey everybody. So I want to give you a bit more guidance on how you can actually play around with this project by creating your own base struct. And I'm going to show you some ways that you can figure out how to display your data for this project. So what you can see here is that I've created a new struct. Instead of the sandwich, this one is a robot, and I've given it a few different properties. So I've given it a name, I've given it a robot type, and I'm thinking about a robot might fly, it might walk, it might drive with wheels, giving it some options, a number of motors, and I'm also giving it a battery voltage. And so I'm using a number of different properties here for the robot. I've also changed the data in here inside test data to have 4 robots of a few different types that I can then use for testing. Now, when you do this and you start going through some of the contents of this code, you're going to run into a bunch of errors. I'm doing this inside of a copy of the files from the tutorial, and so you can see here this looks just like the sandwiches thing that we were playing around with in the tutorial. And I need to adjust this a little bit so that it actually shows information about robots instead. So I'm going to show you a few places where I'm going to need to fix this. The first place, you'll notice that it is called Sandwiches app here. I'm not going to change that yet. Because that's not actually the issue that's causing the error. The reason we're getting an error, if we look at the red dot, is that we're using an undeclared type sandwich. In this program, I have deleted the sandwich.swift file. It doesn't exist anymore. We only have this robot file defining our struct. So the first thing we need to do is change this into robot. And I'm going to change the name of this variable to robots, plural. And so robots is going to be a list containing types of robot. And so now I'm going to start going through and adjusting this so that it shows some information about each robot. So instead of doing list of sandwiches, I'm going to change this to list robots. I'm going to change the name here because as we go through the list of robots, we're going to refer to the current robot in the list as robot. I'm going to remove this image for now, and I'm just going to have a VStack. And inside the VStack, I'm going to change this to robot.name. I can change this, instead of sandwich.ingredient count, I'm going to make this motor or robot.motor number. I'm going to change this to motors. And I'm going to add one more thing, another text element, and this one I'm going to include the voltage. Robot dot battery voltage. And this one I'm going to give it a nice title font. Change it to dot font dot title. I'm going to go in here and change this to volts, and I'm going to make the foreground color a nice, how about let's make it green for voltage, okay? And so now everything here is referring to my struct, which is a robot now, instead of a sandwich. The last thing that I need to do down here is that this variable robots is something that my app needs to have set in order for it to work. So down here, I'm going to change this to robots because the set of robots that I'm loading into my app is going to be this test data that I created right here on the screen. So when I run this, I now get a list of my robots, and I get that voltage looking nice and green there, appearing in my list. And so you see I've now converted this into a list of robots And now this is my own. Now this is something that I can continue editing to move forward in the project.